All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a huge concept in psychology that, believe it or not, started with a bunch of drooling dogs in a lab. It's this incredible story that begins with the science of digestion, but ends up explaining, well, a whole lot about why our own brains work the way they do.
But let's start with a question for you. Go ahead, right now. Think about your absolute favorite food. Maybe it's a juicy burger, a slice of tart lemon, or a warm, cheesy pizza. You picturing it? Is your mouth starting to water just a little bit? The reason that happens has everything to do with our story today.
Okay, let's get into it, because the answer is wrapped up in this amazing accidental scientific discovery. It's a tale about a very meticulous researcher, his pack of dogs, and a really strange phenomenon that he first called psychic secretions. Yeah, you heard me right. So our story kicks off back in the 1890s with a Russian physiologist named Ivan Pavlov. And here's the thing you have to know. Pavlov wasn't a psychologist. He wasn't studying learning or the mind at all. His big thing, the work that actually won him a Nobel Prize, was all about something much more, let's say, straightforward: doggy digestion.
So Pavlov's in his lab, and he's super carefully measuring the amount of saliva his dogs produce when they eat. But he starts to notice something weird. The dogs would start drooling before they even saw the food. Just the sound of his assistant walking down the hall or the rattle of the cart bringing the food was enough to get the drool flowing.
He gave this a pretty wild name: psychic secretions. It sounded like the dogs' brains were mysteriously triggering this physical response. He quickly realized it wasn't just a simple reflex, like a knee-jerk reaction. It was something the dogs had learned. It was a response to things they now associated with getting fed.
And this accidental discovery totally fascinated him. So much so that he actually pushed his digestion research to the side to design this elegant, really controlled experiment. He wanted to know, could he systematically teach a dog to drool for something that has absolutely nothing to do with food?
He broke the whole process down into 3 really clear stages. First, you've got the before picture. He'd ring a bell, the dog does nothing. He presents food, the dog drools. That's natural, totally unlearned. Then came the during phase. He'd ring the bell, and then, right after, he'd present the food. He did this over and over and over again. And finally, the after. He'd ring the bell, and now just the sound of that bell alone was enough to make the dog start salivating.
So here's the absolute heart of the matter. You take something that is completely meaningless to the dog, a neutral stimulus, the bell, and through association, you turn it into a powerful trigger. It gets transformed into what he called a conditioned stimulus, and it now produces a conditioned response, the drooling, all because it became a reliable predictor that food was on its way.
But Pavlov, being the thorough scientist he was, didn't just stop there. He got obsessed with figuring out the rules of the game for these new associations. How exactly are they formed? Can they be unformed? And how specific do they get? And it turns out these learned responses aren't permanent. If you start ringing the bell over and over but no food shows up, the dog eventually learns the bell is a false alarm and the drooling stops. That's called extinction. But, and this is the wild part, even after that, if you wait a while and then ring the bell just once, the drooling can suddenly come back. It's called spontaneous recovery. The association fades, but it seems like it's never 100% forgotten.
And this just shows how flexible this kind of learning is. At first, the dogs would generalize. They'd drool to sounds that were similar to the bell, like a buzzer. But with a little training, they could also learn to discriminate, to tell the difference, and only respond to that one specific bell tone, ignoring everything else. Now, I know this might all seem like a pretty interesting, but maybe kind of obscure experiment with some dogs. But the principles that Pavlov discovered have had this absolutely massive impact on psychology, and they are working in our own lives every single day. So in a very famous and, ethically very questionable experiment, a behaviorist named John B. Watson took these ideas and applied them to a human baby. He conditioned an infant known as Little Albert to be terrified of a harmless white rat, just by pairing the sight of the rat with a super loud, scary noise. It was a powerful demonstration that complex emotions like fear could actually be learned through association. And once you know what you're looking for, you start seeing these bells everywhere. I mean, it's the entire playbook for advertising, right? Pairing a product with a catchy song or a beautiful landscape to make you feel good about it. It's why the smell of a bakery can trigger a craving out of nowhere, or why seeing a certain logo makes you thirsty. It's all Pavlov.
And today, this understanding isn't just about explaining our quirks.
It's become an incredibly powerful tool that we actually use to help people change their lives for the better. These exact principles are the foundation for some really effective therapies. In exposure therapy, you help someone with a phobia by safely reintroducing them to their trigger without any danger, which helps extinguish that fear response. Even a simple bedwetting alarm is just classical conditioning in action. It pairs the feeling of a full bladder with an alarm, conditioning the child to wake up.
And the thing is, this stuff really works. That a neurassist alarm, which is a direct application of Pavlov's work, has a success rate between 50 and 70%. It just goes to show how powerful these learned associations can be in solving real-world human problems.
Now, obviously, science has built on these ideas over the years. We now know that it's not just about two things happening close together in time. What's really crucial is how reliably one thing predicts the other. The bell becomes powerful because it's a trustworthy signal that food is absolutely on its way.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that the world is literally full of invisible bells, and they're conditioning our responses all the time. The specific chime your phone makes for a text that makes you reach for it without thinking, a certain song that instantly transports you back in time, or the logo of a coffee shop that suddenly makes you crave caffeine. They are all Pavlov's bells, still ringing loud and clear more than a century later. So the real question is, which ones are ringing for you?